Good morning, fellow traders. And this is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep Report for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Well, let's take a look at what happened in the world overnight. The Asian markets were kind of mixed last night, with China having some import-export prices coming in and missing expectations, adding more concern to their economy. However, they also made some major promises over there about doing some big deficit spending, trying to stimulate the economy, and that actually had Shanghai just a little bit higher on the day at 0.59%. Unfortunately, Hong Kong declined, down 0.50%. India was down 0.04%. Nikkei was up 0.53%. Australia was down 0.36%, and South Korea was also lower last night. If we were to take a look at European markets this morning, well, mostly lower. We have the DAX hanging in there at up 15 points at 0.07%, while we've got the FTSE down 0.51%, and the CAC is down at 0.53%. And of course, the big concern over there is obviously the political situation that is raising some concerns, but also a big watchfulness of the CPI number coming here in the United States. If we take a look at the futures here in the U.S., Dow futures have slipped back into the red. They were temporarily higher, but only down 7 points. The S&P 500 futures are up $3.50, and NASDAQ futures are up 27 points. So a little bit just kind of hovering around the flat line, but they're trying to pump it up here in the pre-market. So let's take a look at other things here in the market. Let's take a look at energy. Energy obviously has been moving pretty ugly here. Trailing on lower, there is concerns about demand issues and things out of China as their economy continues to weaken, and that is continuing to move those prices lower. This morning, we are no different. We have oil prices lower this morning. Right now, oil futures down 47 cents at $67.90 a barrel. Brent crude is down 47 cents at $71.67 a barrel, and natural gas, which was a little bit higher yesterday, turning negative today, right now down about 7 cents. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. If we take a look at those precious metals markets, gold still a little bit higher here today after quite a move up yesterday, but only up $11.30 at the moment here in the futures. Silver is slightly lower. If we take a look, silver just slightly lower here on the day, but trying to push back up. Copper also just slightly lower after a good pop yesterday. Platinum, palladium moving down after a nice bounce up yesterday. If we take a look at those crypto markets here this morning, well, our crypto markets bouncing around here quite a bit, but Bitcoin at the moment is looking higher after a really rough day yesterday, up 1,200 points. With the extreme volatility of Bitcoin, I don't know how. The only thing you can really do is hold this. It is a very, very volatile market. If we take a look at Ether is down this morning as well, but not heavily, just 0.22%. So keep an eye on those cryptos this morning. If we take a look at our bond yields, well, our bond yields are moving up here this morning. The 2-year bonds are coming in at 4.14. We have the 10-year bonds at 4.22 and the 30-year bonds at 4.42. So we'll want to keep an eye on this, how that deals with the US dollar, you can see UUP is looking maybe just a little bit higher here this morning, adding some additional pressure. And again, it's just worry about that CPI number coming out on Wednesday. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in and buckle up? Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Hope you don't hear some air noise in the background. The heater just kicked on. It's a very cold morning here in central Nebraska. If we take a look at some stocks, take a look at these indexes, and we're going to see how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to shake off that bias. We want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. Now, first off, yesterday's pullback might have been a little bit painful to a lot of folks. And remember, I've been kind of warning about this possibility, just an overextension in the market. But the good news here for the bulls is this is still a bullish chart. And there's no way you can look at that chart and not see a bullish chart. This pullback was definitely needed. And if we were to continue to see some bearishness today, well, maybe a push down to fill this gap might be a possibility if we were to break back down into here, and that wouldn't be a major surprise. It would be a little bit uncomfortable for the bulls because we are slipping this trend, and we lost this area of support yesterday in the chart, but we'll want to just be kind of watching that carefully because CPI number could change everything really quickly on Wednesday morning, and that's where we're just uncertain here as to what to do. If the bulls, however, find inspiration, well, I would suggest a push right back above that area in here. We'll start reaching up to see if we can push through the top of that black candle yesterday. And then if we can get up through there, I think there's every reason to believe that we can once again re-attack the highs in the diamonds. Now, I will say that if we test this area of support, probably won't cause any major concern. But if we were to drop below that, I think we would have some little bit of fear, maybe even a little panic come into the market. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY, also pulling back here, we might test this trend here. You can see this morning we're trying to bounce back up a little bit. There is a little bit of price support in here. So if all we're going to do is push down into here, this is still a very, very bullish chart. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And if those bulls can find that inspiration, grab a hold, well, you can see we just have to push back up through here to have blue sky highs. However, if those bears do have anything to say today and we were to break this upside trend, I would look for an area right in here to find a little bit of price support. If we find it in here, I don't think there's going to be any major problem, but breaking down below there would likely raise a little bit of fear, a little bit of panic in the market. We'll want to be watching that closely. Now, if we take a look at our QQQ, very much the same thing. We're in a very, very bullish pattern on all the indexes, but obviously this pullback is a little bit harsh, and no one likes a pullback, particularly when we're just wildly bullish in the market. So yesterday's pullback here in the QQQ, no major problem here at all. If we were to continue some selling here, we might push down and test this area of support, and the break of this into this gap would probably raise a little bit of concern because it'd be a big point move down to fill that gap here in the QQQ. We may come back and find this support in this trend. Honestly, I think that'd be a very healthy thing for the Qs to do. We would only raise a major panic if we were to break below that area. Now, if the bulls find inspiration, certainly not hard to see. If they can find that push up here, and certainly a CPI number Wednesday morning could easily do this, we could push right through up here and have more blue sky highs. The question is, what's that number going to be? And well, a lot of gambling going on right now, trying to see the future of what that number could mean. If we take a look at our IWM also having a bit of a rough day, bearish engulfing candle here on the day, but once again trying to bounce. You can see in here, this is still a very, very bullish pattern. We just need those bulls to step up in here. So if those bulls can find inspiration here in the market, then what I would look for is I'd look for a press back up. We need to break back up through that area of resistance right there. And then we can start stretching on up to see if we can attack these areas and maybe even that all-time high breakout here on the Russell. If the bears, however, were to find inspiration here today, you can see we're trying to hold this little area of support in this little upside trend. Breaking down below there, I could see that possibility we could come down into here. That would break that trend ever so slightly, catching a little support. And again, pushing beyond that would probably raise some concern here in the market. If we take a look at our VIX yesterday, our VIX started to show a little bit of concern. We've been extremely confident here in the market that everything is copacetic and bullish. And then yesterday we got a little shot of bearishness in here. But I got to tell you, I don't see this as terrible yet. In fact, I just see this as running back up to test the downtrend here in the VIX. If we were to get follow through to the upside today, that may raise some concern. If we were to pop up in here, maybe test this resistance or even break above that, that's where we'd have a little bit of concern in the market. If we see this just kind of drift sideways or fade back in here, I don't know that we're going to have any major issues here in the VIX just yet. If we take a look at our T2122, now our T2122, interestingly enough, made a move to the upside yesterday. We had more stocks going up than going down, or more stocks making 4-week highs than those making 4-week lows. But you'll see that we finished the day just about 50%. And so what I see right here in this market right now is that the bulls and bears are, well, basically straddling the fence. We're trying to decide, is the number tomorrow going to be a good inflation number? Is it going to be a bad inflation number? And we are just straddling the fence trying to figure out what comes next in the market. And you can see that major anticipation and worry about that CPI number. If we take a look at our T2108, our T2108 ended up the day, it was mostly higher all day long, but you can see ended the day just slightly flat, tiny little bit lower. No particular worries here, but this area right here, this 50% area, will be kind of critical psychologically to the market. If we have more than 50% of our stocks down here below that 50%, more than half of the stocks, well, of course, that's going to raise some concern. If we use it as an area of support and those bulls can grab a hold of it here, push it back up, probably no problem at all. So keep a close eye on that. We're right there, again, kind of sitting on the fence here in this situation. And then T2107, our T2107, very much the same with a little tiny hookup. It was stronger earlier in the day. We're way above 50% here, so we're in good shape on that. We're still holding in this little upside trend. We've still got resistance above to be thinking about. So again, it really is going to depend on what the follow through is for today. If we push on through to the upside, we might be just fine. If we were to break back down there, maybe a little concern would come into the market. And then, of course, our T2101, well, yesterday showed us that we had very little increase in breadth, but I will give that up here because that did hold that support. Unfortunately, That breadth was an increase on a bearish day. So we might be seeing those bears catching a little bit more in strength overall. We'll want to watch that closely today. If we get bullishness in the market today, we need to see that push through that breadth increase. We don't want to see that breadth diminish here on a bullish day. So watch carefully there in T2101. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, we've got a few things to be paying attention to, but a very few things. We've got an NFIB small business optimism report. It's already come in, and look at there. Nice improvement in small business optimism, up at 101.7. They were looking for a 94.5, so that's a big beat here in that number. And then we've got a productivity and cost number that will be coming in. They're looking for a 2.2 on the non-farm payrolls and a unit labor cost of 1.9. That's essentially flat over last time. So keep an eye on that one. Of course, that is pretty much the end of the day, except for a 3-year note auction and some bond announcements. That's about it. And we're going to be immediately thinking about this number here in CPI, which, of course, if you've seen the reports, they are expecting it to actually increase on a month-over-month basis. So that's what's causing this little concern in the market. We'll also have mortgage applications, petroleum numbers, a 10-year note auction in there to be paying attention to in that Treasury statement. Of course, right into Thursday, we'll be thinking about PPI as well. Okay, let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. In our earnings calendar, we do have a nice group of earnings that could be market moving. So let's take a look at those. We've got ASO reporting this morning. We're going to hear from AutoZone here this morning. Looks like AutoZone, I don't know if they reported or not. Not much price action in there on those at the moment. We've got DBI reporting this morning. Obviously, that's feeling a little bit on the bearish side. We got FERG. That's a little bit on the bearish side. GIII will be reporting. Again, a little bit on the bearish side. We've got Ollie's Bargain Barn reporting. Not much going on there at the moment. And UNFI that will be reporting today. So these are all this morning, going a little bit higher here on that one. So looking pretty good there. This afternoon, very small list. We're going to have Dave & Buster's in here. We're going to hear from GameStop, and we're also going to hear from Stitch Fix. So keep an eye on those. Well, I've got the wrong symbol. I've got to fix that symbol. So Stitch Fix is in there this afternoon, so keep an eye on that. So let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor and click that thumbs up button, that'll help the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. Thank you so much to everyone who shares these videos out on your social media feed. And for those of you that continue to support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video. You guys are truly awesome. I very, very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at a few of these charts. And remember, folks, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market and make sure you're paying very close attention to the economic report coming out tomorrow morning, because it definitely could change everything in the market really quickly. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself in whatever you do. Remember, any of these stocks that I bring up are not a recommendation. Do your due diligence. Make sure you're following your rules and your guidelines. First off, let's take a look at a couple here that have looked pretty good yesterday. Bumble pushing back up while the rest of the market was feeling a little bit on the bearish side. Bumble made that recovery in here, pushing back up above that support. So I would keep an eye on this. Any follow through in here could potentially break this through that resistance and have that new extension or that next leg to the upside. So keep an eye on Bumble, looking pretty good in there. Take a look at BlackBerry. Now, BlackBerry had an amazing day in here. I will tell you that it's a little bit stretched here on that big move yesterday to the upside, but still overall looking good. I think any rest, I wouldn't chase it today, but any rest or pullback in here would set up that next opportunity in BlackBerry, looking pretty darn good. If we take a look at some of the airlines, JetBlue continuing to show some bullishness, trying to break this downtrend here in the chart, trying to recover and get something going. You might look at this and see this little W formation in here, and I think if it breaks through that downtrend, holds a higher low, then I would be looking for that next upside opportunity in there, and it would join, its buddies out here in the airline world with like, AAL, very, very strong in the market and could be a potential buy with a bit more rest. United Airlines has pulled back to find the trend. I would look for that next opportunity up here. You can take a look at Jets. Jets has been holding up incredibly strong this year. Beautiful upside trend. This little resting pullback in here, I think, could set up that next opportunity to the upside. And when we're talking about travel, well, you've got to continue to look at these cruise lines. RCL still looking very good. Carnival Cruise still looking good. Now, we did give up this little bit of trend yesterday, coming into some support, but keep an eye on that. And then CLH might be off the list here for a while. We may have created a double top here on NCLH. We might be finding a little bit of bearishness having some impact here on this one. Let's take a look at other things. Mickey D's had a pretty good move yesterday. You'll want to watch this closely. We've got this wedging pattern happening in here, what people will call a symmetrical triangle. Keep an eye on that. If those bulls can find inspiration here today and pop through this area, might be worth keeping an eye on that, because if we can break that downtrend up here, hold a higher low, then that's exactly what I would be looking for in that chart. Keep an eye on Mickey D's trying to look pretty good. When we take a look at some of our shippers out there, well, UPS has been having lots of struggles here, and as you can see, failing in a downtrend. Yesterday we got a nice bounce off of this price support, but I don't think that's going to help us out much. As this rallies back up, I would be looking for that next high, lower high in here, and that next possible short that could take us lower here. But when I look at FDX, same situation here. Breaking the upside trend, breaking support levels in the chart. Our shippers are not looking good, so watch that carefully. Any rally back here, I would be looking for a push down, and you'll notice what I just drew there is a head and shoulders topping pattern, so watch that carefully. If we see some bearishness coming into the market, these might suffer here just a bit. Watch those closely. Take a look at stocks like TEVA. TEVA trying to hold a higher low. There's that W formation in here. Broke through the resistance in the middle of that, and now we're holding this area. A little bit of rest maybe might be required, a little bit more coming back out here toward trend. Look for that next opportunity to the upside there for that potential move. We saw Cleveland Cliffs trying to make a move yesterday. Cleveland holding that higher low. Now, clearly there's a lot of resistance overhead here on Cleveland, so you may not want to jump in on this just yet. But if this can hold in here and challenge up in here, maybe popping through here, we look for that next opportunity to the upside. So keep an eye on Cleveland. That's coming around with a little bit of steel now. I think we're going to need to see those that dollar weaken here a little bit, those bond yields to pull back to really help that out. But still worth keeping an eye on here in the market. Take a look at F-Cell. Fuel cells had a pretty good day yesterday, popping up. F-Cell breaking this downtrend, trying to hold a bullish pattern in here after breaking through that downtrend, something I would keep an eye on. If those fuel cells can get going here, hey, may have some nice upside here. And Plug also having a great day yesterday, again on that fuel cell power supply out there. Nice little pop to the upside, big strong move, and any rest or pullback might set up that next opportunity after building this base here in that chart. Watch that carefully. You know, when we take a look at some of our financials, we're starting to see just a little bit of weakness show up here. And when we take a look at XLF, you can see yesterday we pulled back, we broke some support and broke that little upside trend here in the chart. Watch that carefully. If we start to see those financials drift a little bit lower here, that could also be a sign of the market weakening. And if we take a look at like JP Morgan, still looking at the same kind of pattern in there. Goldman Sachs just struggling in here, going sideways, and just a little slight decline going on in there. So keep an eye on some of those. BAC, this is starting to look, although it's holding support in here, starting to look a little bit of a head and shoulders toppy type pattern in there on BAC. So keep an eye on that. Should keep an eye on Cisco here today. Now, Oracle had a really bad day, and that drew this down just a little bit here in Cisco. But I still think if we can catch a little bit of bullishness in the market, this could pop right back up. Worth keeping an eye on. But boy, Oracle had a really rough day yesterday on its earnings report. Breaking through some support here. You can see this morning it is trying to bounce back up, but watch that carefully as we bounce back into price resistance here in the chart. We may well just find that resistance too strong and see that dip on lower. And I know no one wants to hear that, but you guys have heard me speak about this one over and over again. To be careful here with AMD as it pushed back up to resistance, and boy, yesterday it came all unraveled, breaking down below this next area of support in the chart, showing that bearishness coming into play. And I would still worry just a little bit about Google in here as well. Google, well, look at there. This was looking like it was going to come up to the end of this resistance and might show a little bit of concern, but we're trying to spike it here in the pre-market. So maybe everything I was going to say is already out the door. Watch that carefully here as we approach resistance in the chart. You know, one thing you may think you've got something figured out. The market has an incredible way of humbling everyone. And you can see just popping up here hard, we might run into this resistance now and see if that's going to hold it. But watch this carefully until we hold some kind of a higher low. This stretch up here doesn't impress me much. We need to hold the higher low and prove that we can hold. From there, we have an upside move that we can trust. When we stretch up like this, we run that risk that we get that big reversal that occurs in the chart, just like it did here, So watch that carefully on Google here today. So with that, that's quite a few stocks for you guys to take a look at. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for paying attention and supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate it. Y'all take care, be safe, have a wonderful Tuesday, and I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning as we wait for that CPI report. Wish you all of the best.